everyone, how's it going? It's the Fuzz. So it's about time we got around to the long-awaited hero draft guide, right? So I've been meaning to do this for a while now, but like stuff kept happening, balance patches, tournaments, masters. It's like there's always something else going on so that I couldn't do this. But now that things have kind of settled down and Amalric got changed and looks like it's not going to be changed anytime soon, so I think we're fine. And now we're going to properly evaluate them. So I got the rating box here. Basically, I'm going to rate them in 4 categories, just like I do with cards. And it's a pretty similar idea. The 4-star rating I'm going to give to the 3 best heroes, in my opinion. Which are, of all the good ones, these 3 are, I think, the best. And the other good ones, I will give 3 stars. 2 stars goes to heroes which are not that good, but not so bad that you couldn't use them. Like, you could probably get enough synergy to make use of them. It's generally not feasible. And then 1 star is just complete trash, basically. So, how they're going to be rated, though, is not simply how good the ability is. It's also how demanding it is. So, of course, advanced abilities require you to go to 3 aspects and, you know, double aspect of one kind. So, they have to be better to compensate. So, as you'll notice, in fact, a lot of the best abilities, in my opinion, are not the advanced ones. With, except advanced Daris, I guess, obviously. Not a big spoiler. And also the aspects themselves, like, you know, heroes in strong aspects are naturally just better because, you know, you already are playing the good aspect. So if this hero is decent, that hero gets better. Whereas you might have a solid hero, but if the aspect is terrible, you don't want to play this aspect, right? So the hero kind of loses out as well. Anyways, these are mostly my opinions and my experiences. Again, I want to make it clear that just because I gave a hero like 1 star or 2 star doesn't mean they're like completely worthless. Well, probably in the case of 1 star. But a lot of the 2 stars, I'm sure you may have played and you thought, well, it's not that bad. I had a decent deck with it. And yeah, sure. In fact, some of the most crushing defeats I've ever had were at the hands of some of these weaker heroes. Though, to be fair, that was mostly because the decks were insane and it almost wouldn't matter what hero power they had. The deck was just good enough, it would have crushed me anyways. But the lesson is, it's possible to draft a deck that makes any hero insane. It's just that it's more likely in some cases and less likely in others. And the good heroes, in my opinions, are the ones that are flexible and can work in a variety of decks and will be good even if you don't have real synergy for them. Whereas the bad ones require more synergy, and so more often than not they just aren't worth it. And in the case of 1 stars, the synergy is either completely unrealistic or it's a hero that's strictly constructed because you could never, like, you'd have to get a very specific set of cards to make it work, and that's just never gonna happen. Anyways, enough of that. Starting off with our good friend Alexa Angelic Messenger gets a whopping 1 star. It is universally believed to be the worst limited hero. Yeah, pretty much. And that's simply because the angels are almost all epic and rare and heroic. There's only 1 angel that isn't, unless you count the Angelic Temple, but then you need priests. And Angelic Temples you can't actually get through the hero power, so they don't even count. So in any draft, how many angels can you realistically get? If anybody opens Soluxio or Antriel, they're probably getting taken. If they open Guardian, it's likely to get taken because it's such a good card. You might actually consider taking it and even play double order just because of it. And the only other one is the Protector of the Innocent. So, thinking optimistically, you could get, what, 4 angels maybe? That's pretty optimistic, actually. 3 angels? And even if you hit on something like Guardian, all it really is just draw a card for 0. Which may seem nice, but it's not that groundbreaking, and it is limited to just the number of angels in your deck. So the problem is, you would need way too many angels to make this work, and you're never gonna get enough angels to make this work. No. No chance. Basic Alexa earns 2 stars from me. It's one of the 3 heroes that spawns creatures. It is the weakest of them. The Militia is the weakest of the 3 because it's just a 1/1 with 1 speed. The other guys who spawn creatures either have better creatures or just the creatures like scale better in the case of Elrike. While it's certainly possible to draft a bunch of tacticians and just go crazy, the Militia, like if you're ahead spawning extra Militia, they can be kind of nice because they can do extra damage. But if you're not, they're completely worthless and they're just cannon fodder. And if you don't have like ways to buff them, they basically just get killed for free. That's really my main problem. It's nice that they cost 1 mana, but yeah, it's not like an awful hero. And I guess if you can make it work, it could actually be pretty good. But again, in my criteria, I find it's not likely enough. But again, if you pick the tactician, if you see 3 more tacticians, go for it, right? As it is, with 2 stars, these decks can be good. They just tend not to be. So that's why she gets 2 stars. Mr. Amalric, post-nerf, gets a 3-star rating. It maybe would have been a 4 if in his old form. Yeah, probably would have been a 4, yeah. But the loss of the attack boost is actually a big deal. The cooldown, yeah, that's a thing too. But the fact that the creatures no longer get an attack boost is a big deal because it allowed your creatures to kind of trade up. Because a lot of things in Spellweaver have 2 attack. So when they got a 3 attack, they can now kill so many more things. So you could just hit 2 creatures, kill 2 bigger creatures, and that was just really, really good. The ability is still pretty solid. I would argue it is the best order hero by a lot, actually. Because even if you're not attacking with anything, just playing 2 creatures and protecting them means you're going to keep these creatures, right, for next turn. That's very handy. The 4 cooldown, though, is a bit painful. Like, I'm slightly debating putting him at 2, but I think it's like, fair enough to put him at 3. And because it is the best order hero, and I don't just want to call all of them trash. Amalric is not that bad, but it's not as insane as you'd think anymore. It certainly used to be. Look how shiny he is, but the power of shiny has expired. I wonder if the nerf was too harsh. Maybe just taking away attack was enough, especially with all the other nerfs to the Valor cards. Maybe this was too much, but it's not that bad. And then Hermelian is the last one. I'm going to kind of reluctantly and painfully give him a 1 star. And you might think this is a bit cruel because, come on, it's not as bad as Alexa. That double order requirement really blows. It really sucks. And that's really the main reason he gets 1 star. If his requirement was just 1 order, 1 generic, he might even make it to 3 stars. Yeah. But the thing is, there's very little benefit to playing double order. That's the problem. The constructed decks that ran Hermelian all ran powerful double order cards. All of which, unfortunately, were epic or rare. So, you're not going to get them. You're not going to get Namirs and Ironbeards and even Cavalry Field Captains. That's not even a double order card. Or what, Spell Wardens? Sure, the Holy Radiance now is a double order requirement, but would you run Hermelian just because you picked up 1 Holy Radiance? Would you even run double order just because you picked up 1 Holy Radiance? I don't know. The ability is certainly not bad. I mean, we have seen just how devastating it can be, but that double order sucks. That's really what kills it. Like, I don't think I could ever bring myself to run this hero because I don't think I've ever done double order. I mean, unless I got really powerful cards like with blue and white and I got, let's say, Soluxia. But even in that case, I think I wouldn't pick it. So, I mean, if I wouldn't pick it even in the best case, what hope does he have? So you may disagree with this one, and that's completely understandable, but I just can't imagine ever picking this in draft. Advanced Daris gets an easy 4-star rating. This one's regarded to be as one of the, if not the best heroes. And I could see that since it's the only one of the best that has not been nerfed in some way. Well, one of them wasn't nerfed, but the point was Daris is still at 3 cooldown, which gives him an edge over a lot of heroes. I strongly believe it should be 4 cooldown, and I mean, we can keep bothering the devs about this because, come on, it seems obvious that this is a powerful ability, comparable to Advanced Zash. Not worse, certainly not worse. So why does it have a lower cooldown? Anyways, why it's so strong is pretty obvious. It only hits the enemy, it kills all their 1 health stuff, and if you have any freezing effects, you can just use this to activate them and kill their stuff. Like, if you have 1 flash freeze, it's basically 5 mana, kill something, and then shock everything else. It's really strong. And with a 3-turn cooldown, it's a great stalemate breaker in the late game, or even like mid-late game. If you have a decent board and they have a decent board, you will win with this hero power because you'll just shock all their guys. You can hit his face for full damage, and then he can't hit back the next turn. So then you just do it again 3 turns later, and if your opponent doesn't have removal, he just won't have any answer to this strategy. So yeah, it's obviously a very powerful hero. I think even with a 4-turn cooldown, might be 4 stars probably. It's just so good. It's also because it's only 4 mana. So why isn't this like the most insane hero ever? It's because Wisdom has gotten pretty popular with the addition of Parallel Evolution, and you know, people realizing how good this is. So Wisdom cards get picked a lot, so if you don't get a good Wisdom base, it's kind of hard to justify running this. Like, you can't just run Daris Stormborn if you have like 3 Wisdom cards, right? Like, especially because you'd have to go double Wisdom, and a lot of the time you're forced to play 3 aspects because you just didn't get enough good cards from 2 aspects, so then you have to play 4 aspects if you want to play Daris. So yeah, the better people think Daris is, the more people will pick Wisdom, and the worse Daris will get. Isn't that fun? Anyways, moving on. Basic Daris. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna kind of generously give him 2 stars. You can make an argument for 1. It's only because he's competing with Elrike and Advanced Daris. It's like, he's like the weakest of the 3, which is a bummer. But I mean, the ability, it's nice. Draw a card. It's never bad. Like, if you're running any Wisdom at all, it's never bad to have an ability like this. It's just that more often than not, you'd prefer to pick a more proactive ability. And as Wisdom, you can generally pick up card draw. I could kind of see this if you're playing like a 3-aspect deck and you don't have a theme and you've got like a lot of really good cards, but you need to draw them. Maybe you have like 1 big bomb card that you want to use, and then you kind of use him to draw through it. But yeah, he kind of gets looked over and ignored a lot of the time. That's why he only gets 2. You could argue for 1, but I would sooner pick this than Hermelion, for instance. Elrike gets 3 stars. It's one of the other creature summoning guys. The one advantage Elrike's illusions have over the Coronis' Ravens, for instance, is that the illusions can get to 3 speed. That's actually a pretty big deal. If your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with them, that's devastating, because you could just summon more and more of them, and they just get bigger and bigger. And while it's true that they're easy to remove, well, usually easy to remove, they can actually be pretty devastating. If your opponent gets like a 4/4 with 3 speed and you don't have an answer to it, you're gonna die very fast. So it's just a decent hero. You know, just summon an extra creature here and there. You know, at worst it'll trade with something. If it takes 1 removal spell, fine. It's just all around solid. And I would say in the cases where you do have Wisdom and you can't or don't want to play Advanced Daris, Elrike is a nice fallback if you want that, or if there isn't any other hero you want to specifically run. Mr. Keanu, I reluctantly give him 3. The old Keanu was arguably 4 stars because it had some really, really powerful synergies. This one is still really nice, but it lost some of those synergies, so it's not as insane. The main synergy was with Rocky Berserker, where you could use him and he comes out as a 3/4 Swift, and that was insane. Not so much anymore, unfortunately. But just like Elrike, just use this to give your guys Might Emblems, makes every creature better. Yeah, it's nice. Late game, it gets a little bit weak because it's kind of slow, but if you're playing a top deck war, you know, having every single one of your creatures get an extra Might Emblem if you're willing to wait a little bit. Solid. I would say easily the best nature hero. Advanced Neva. I'm going to give her 1 star. I was originally going to give her 2. The problem is, And there's just very little reason to go double nature. Really, the only compelling reason would be if you have like a Fae of Charm, or probably at least 2, and maybe like a Wolf Tongue or something. Yeah, Life Force Incarnate is pretty nice, though not as nice as it used to be. But if you look at the hero power as it is, it's basically just draw 3 cards, which seems pretty good, but you have to set it up from quite a far away. And if you compare to, let's say, Advanced Daris, Daris offers you a very powerful removal spell, you know, immediately. So with this, you finally set it up and you just draw some cards. Yeah, you get to develop a board in the process, the way Hate Bears did it. But Hate Bears were specifically designed to abuse this by all being 2-cost creatures, which work best with this. But in Draft, you just pick up whatever you can, right? And while Nature does have some good cards, I don't know. You could make an argument for 2 stars. I don't think I've ever drafted Advanced Neva. I have no interest in ever doing so, because I could always think of a better hero. Depending on what my second aspect was, I could just always think of a better hero. I guess if my second aspect was Order, I'm not sure what I would do. Well, then I just play Keanu. Yeah, sorry, Advanced Neva. Again, you could argue for 2, but in my experience, from what I've played, she's a 1-star. Basic Neva. This one's interesting. It seems powerful, certainly, and it has potential, but I give her 2 stars. And that's mostly because I had one interesting draft where I was going Nature Dominion, and I was picking a lot of aggressive cards, a lot of Elf Warriors, and I even got a couple Minotaurs, and I thought, well, Minotaurs, that's just perfect. Like, they are big creatures. Having them swift, that's incredible, right? My deck is just going to crush everyone. But you know what? It wasn't as good as I thought, because one thing, the 4-turn cooldown kind of sucks. It means it has to be decisive. You can't just swift one thing. Like, you might think, okay, well, you'll swift one creature and get a free kill. Okay, but, I mean, other hero powers can, like Burkh, for instance, can get free kills too, without, like, with a lot less shenanigans. And, yeah, I mean, this is why she isn't 1-star. She's 2 stars, because certainly swifting several creatures and going face and just killing your opponent, yeah, that can be good. It's just not as good as it seems, is what I'm saying. And actually, in that draft, I just ended up going for Coronis. And in a lot of the same matchups, Coronis was not really any worse. Even though my deck was geared for aggression, Coronis was actually not much worse. Though, to be fair, that was the old Coronis. The new Coronis, obviously, is a little weaker. But yeah, I'm just going to give her 2 stars. It's actually one of the least seen heroes. So now we move on to the bad guys. We've got Burkh. Burkh the Awesome with 4 stars. Probably my favorite hero. With the buff to his ability is just really efficient and really convenient. If you draft Rage and you didn't get enough removal, this should be an auto pick, because you can kill 2 1-health creatures for just 2 mana. That's actually really good. But the main thing is being able to kill 3 health creatures. Wow, what a difference that makes. Being able to pick off library guards, things like Wolf Tongue, a lot of other things that have 3 health. Even though you take damage, imagine a spell that costs 4 mana, kill 2 enemy things on the front row that have 3 health. That's pretty good. I mean, maybe not like constructed level good, but it's a hero power, which means it's always available. So yeah, it's good. Hang on a second. Getting a little dark. Now my face has been illuminated. Anyways, yeah, easy 4 stars. And I think basically the go-to Rage hero for the most part. Advanced Zash. So this is an example of a hero that's moved away from 4 stars and now is in 3 stars because of the cooldown mostly, and also the improvement to Burkh, certainly. The hero power is obviously insanely powerful, but it is a little bit late and also hits your side. So you kind of have to be playing a mid-range / control deck, because otherwise your own stuff will die. and you'll often be in a situation where you can reset the board, but then you will lose stuff. Whereas with Burkh, you're kind of killing his stuff only. If you do have such a control deck, though, it's going to be an insane hero power, because if you're ever behind, just sweep the board, right? And if you have a lot of 4 health creatures, stuff like the Javelineer, for instance, and the Elder, yeah, your guys don't die, enemy stuff dies. In a lot of battles, enemies don't have creatures with 3 or more, with more than 3 health, so it's basically Cataclysm. It's pretty good stuff, but it is a little bit late. It does require double rage, which is why it's not like an automatic 4-star. It requires an investment, essentially, of going into rage specifically, though that's not unrealistic. It's certainly a hero you would consider. It's not like if I play rage, it's always Burkh. I probably play Burkh, but see if advanced Zash maybe could work better. That's why he gets 3. Basic Zash, aka Mr. Leroy Face, gets 1 star because the hero power is just so painfully weak that it isn't even worth considering. Even if you're playing really, really aggressively, going face isn't going to help you, because Crazy Rage decks require burn and follow-up. What am I doing with my life? There you go. So you don't just play creatures and go face. You usually had burn and like Flame Serpents. You might not get those things, and then you just run out of steam. And you might not even draft that aggressive of a deck. In draft, you can't just lose the board. And this does nothing to help your board. Just how much worse is this than Burkh? It's incomparable, honestly. Like, I can't even imagine any situation where I would ever pick this over Burkh. Ever. And so because it's competing with one of the best heroes, and they have a similar idea where they're supposed to help you control the board, Burkh just crushes this. So you have no reason to ever pick this hero. And so 1 star. Coronis. I mean, it shouldn't require much explaining, really. Even with the nerf, it's still really good. A 2/2 Raven as a hero power, it's good. And the reason he keeps his 4-star status is because even if you make a couple 1/1 Ravens, as soon as you make 1 2/2 Ravens, it upgrades all of your Ravens. So it's still a really, really great hero power. And the life bound is so nice. Oh my goodness. You can often use this to keep yourself safe when you're getting beaten down. Because as Coronis, you tend to lose a lot of life between this and Soul Flames. But no, it's a great hero. It's still at the top, even with the nerf. The nerf wasn't that big. It's just like, instead of being like way over the top the best, it's just like on par with advanced Daris and Burkh, and not just like way better. Advanced Despina. Fun hero. So we're basically in the same situation where it's an advanced hero that's up against a hero that's really good. But I'm actually going to give her 2 stars instead of 1, because Dominion is much better than Nature a lot of the time. And certainly late game Dominion is better than late game Nature. So you could conceivably draft a lot of heavy Dominion cards and then use this as like a finisher or like a value engine, or even just draft an aggressive deck and use this as a late game engine. It's just that, well, it's harder to actually hit stuff than it is in Constructed, because that your opponent could have anything. There are certain what I'm really trying to say is that if you hit, let's say, 5, which is the 2-aspect 3 mana, you'll probably hit something. But then you basically way overpaid for a creature. Draft games tend not to go on so long that this is necessary, but sometimes they do. So I could definitely see this. If you pick up a Cataclysm and a lot of like control cards, this could actually be better than Coronis. But the odds are not great in its favor. But unlike, let's say, advanced Alexa and advanced Neva, because late game Dominion is strong, and just Dominion overall is strong, Yeah, it could happen, but it's just not that likely. So I'm gonna leave her at 2. You could make an argument for 1. I'm gonna keep it at 2. Basic Despina. Basically 1 star. It's a strictly combo hero. That's all it is. It's designed for constructed, where you abuse huge mana. You can't really do that in limited. The best you can do is use this on turn 2 to try to get like a 4-drop out. But I mean, say you do that, you don't. It's like a power surge, but you don't get to keep the mana. And then what? Like, it becomes useless so quickly. So, and the worst part is, it's competing with Coronis. It's terrible. Corruption, starting with Enoch, who gets a blazing 1 star. It's maybe worse than... No, okay, it's not... That's not worse than Advanced Elixir. Advanced Elixir literally reads do nothing. This could conceivably do something. The thing is, the decks in Constructed that run this are not using it to buff their board. They're using it for the healing and for the sacrifice. So, not the things you want to do in draft. Like, in draft, you'd want to, you know, have a big board, use the ability, yeah, buff my board and attack with everything. But sacrificing your own creatures is not a good idea, and you're never really going to have a big enough board. If your board is already that big, you're already winning. So it's like Hermelion, but worse. And this isn't even double corruption. If this was double corruption, it'd be super trash in limited, but no, it's just... It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And interestingly, occasionally I run into people playing it, but it just does so little. Like you have to be way too far ahead or have way too big of a board for this to do anything. Yeah, pretty much. Basic Nepharos. So I'm going to give this one 2. Similar to a basic Zash, but definitely better because it lets slower creatures catch up to faster ones. That's actually pretty good. It lets you pick off 3-speed creatures, which is very nice. But it's just a very low value hero power, and zombies are not something you want to be drafting. Zombie Legionnaire is mostly terrible. Abhorrent Ghoul is pretty terrible. Unless you manage to draft a lot of them. If you draft a lot of those guys, it does get better, because then you get it more consistently. And with basic Nepharos, yeah, they were designed for him. They were zombies, and this guy were made for each other. So if you have a good zombie deck, yeah, it might actually work out. It's just that probably won't work out. That's what I'm saying. But do keep an eye on it. Sometimes corruption can really surprise, especially with these days with buffs to Word of Pain and Suffocate, since the zombies don't suffer that much from Suffocate. Keep an eye out for it. If you have a lot of slow creatures and a lot of aggressive cards like Consume Spirit, could work. It could actually work out. And lastly, Advanced Nepharos gets... Honestly, I'm kind of torn. I originally marked him as 2 for this, basically exactly the same reasons as Advanced Despina. I'm going to give him 2 stars. Pretty much for exactly the same reasons as Advanced Despina. You could say Corruption is weaker in the late game than Dominion, but his hero power is a little bit easier to use because you can sort of control what dies on the board. You can bring back your own stuff. So if the game goes late enough, it could actually be pretty powerful, bringing back like something that died, basically, getting a free Reanimate. Well, more like a free Eternal Servitude. But that's good enough if you are playing a corruption-heavy deck, because that's the only reason you'd even consider this hero. If you are playing a corruption-heavy deck, and you're looking for a corruption hero, well, I mean, okay, whatever your other aspect is, and if it's not like Wisdom, where you could play Elrike or something, you could possibly make use of this. It's just a bit rough. It is specific, just like Basic Nepharos. Basic Nepharos wants you to be very aggressive, very offensive. This kind of wants you to be slow, so you can take advantage. Because a lot of games will end before you even get to use this ability, which sucks, because your opponents will have used their hero powers, and they'll have gotten value over you. And that's a bummer. But, yeah, it could work out. but it could not. Basically, don't try to draft a deck with this in mind. Just draft good cards and see if maybe this works. A lot of the time it won't, but it's not trash. Anyways, that's it for my ratings. Let me know what you think. To do a little bit of a recap, the 3 best heroes are Advanced Daris, Coronis, and Burkh. Other good heroes include Amalric, Elrike, Keanu, and Advanced Zash. Basically, you should always be picking one of those 7. Unless you have a very good reason to pick one of the 2-star heroes, you should always be picking one of those 7. I hope you enjoyed. I certainly do hope we get some tier lists going eventually, but that is a lot of work, especially with so many more cards that we have. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.